Thank you very much. Next witness, please, Mr. Mecca.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Frank Mecca from CWDA, and our staff and counties have been involved with CCR since the beginning as well. And like the prior speakers, we're completely in support of the central premise of the CCR, that kids should not be growing up in congregate care facilities. They should be growing up with families. I think the consensus that you're hearing on that point reflects, I think, is reflective of an important consensus in California, but also the really good work the department has done. And I want to second Ms. Niffin's commendation of the department for doing that job. We're very pleased with the recommendations overall, particularly those that relate to the emphasis on upfront assessments, using family teams, and bringing services and supports to kids where they are so they don't, in a sense, have to fail up before they can get the level of services and interventions that they actually need. I think we'd also concur with the LAO that there's a lot of work still to be done. The CCR establishes a very good framework, but the things like rate structures and accreditation and the provider performance monitoring system are things that through administrative processes are going to require a good deal of work, and we're in it for the long haul like everyone else is, and we'll make that commitment here today. If there's one message around the CCR that my members want to leave with you in the committee today, it actually underscores Director Lightbourne's point. The success of the CCR is going to turn on our ability to retain and recruit and support an adequate supply of foster families and relative caregivers. And that is a huge challenge. And we're working very hard on all of those activities, but we're here to tell you right now, we do not have an adequate supply of those homes, and we need your help. Across the state. Across the state. Right. And we need your help. The report endorses this notion, and so it's consistent with the report that in order to retain and recruit and keep, there are a lot of things that we as a state need to do, and the CCR highlights that without those families, we won't achieve the successes. We have a proposal. Well, first of all, I'd like to say we're absolutely in support of and thank the administration for including funding for county activities related to retaining and recruiting and supporting foster families and relative caregivers. And we also are in support of the increase in the social worker rate component of the foster family agencies, as they are going to be a key partner in the rolling out of the CCR. In the interest of not sort of being duplicative, I'll defer to the later panel the details on our ideas for what we could do specifically to retain and recruit and support caregivers with an augmentation to the proposal that the administration has put on the table. We definitely appreciate the investment, and we think the CCR is very positive. It's going to happen, and we're hopeful that we could make really significant change. But as you implied, Madam Chair, it's going to require an ongoing effort and commitment and due diligence for all of us to actually actualize the goals of the CCR. Thank you. Final witness.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Rodriguez. I'm the Executive Director of the Youth Law Center. And our advocacy has been focused on both reducing and eliminating the use of congregate care for the past 30 years, improving conditions of foster care for children, and ensuring that youth receive the individualized parenting that Allison talked about that's necessary for healthy development is really the core of our mission. Personally, just as context, I want to say this effort is the third congregate care reform process I've participated in over the last 17 years. I actually participated in my first congregate care reform process in 1998 as a CYC member who had recently left the group home that I lived in. It was one of dozens of group homes that I lived in across Northern California and that I spent my childhood in. We've known for all of those years, 17 years plus, about how children are harmed in these type of placements. It's been well documented by research that congregate care has inherently detrimental effects on the healthy development of children and youth. We know about the dismal outcomes in education, behavior, relationships, and adult outcomes and relationships. We know that placing children in group care creates and increases rather than reduces problem behaviors. We also know that families have been proven best for children in every way, and this includes children that we typically think of as needing congregate care, youth who are involved with the delinquency system, youth who've experienced sexual exploitation. For those youth, families have also been proven to be the best settings. However, while the number of children in congregate care has decreased with the overall reduction of children in foster care period, the proportion of youth in group care has remained exactly the same in California. We're still at 12%, the same place we were 10 years ago. In fact, half of the states in the whole country have a lower percentage of children in group care than California. We've largely ignored these youth who are languishing in institutions while we do reform processes without families. And just as a side piece of information, those children are over 70% Black and Latino. While we've speculated about all of the things that would need to happen first before we require careful assessment and review to ensure children are not inappropriately dumped in group care, and that group home providers are actually required to offer treatment. We need policy restricting and requiring and putting standards on providers now. This is the first process we have ever seen that actually has resulted in concrete policy recommendations that are designed to restrict inappropriate placement and that would require facilities to actually offer treatment rather than simply warehousing children. We know that's what the legislature intended. This process was originally titled Congregate Care Reform, and it came in response to increased costs from court-ordered rate increases, serious concerns about the use and quality of group care, and definitive new research evidence that congregate care is almost always detrimental to the development of children and youth. CCR was based on two widely accepted premises: children who are currently placed in group care as destination rather than treatment, and that congregate care facilities are not currently providing the specialized treatment for those children who do need that treatment. The department's proposal is based on findings from experience, both here in California as well as across the country, that once our policy actually restricts the system's reliance on congregate care, that agencies prioritize and create other options for children. We've seen that in play here in California with very young children. The Youth Law Center worked with the legislature over the past 20 years in creating restrictions both for children under 6 and for children aged 6 to 12. We have not seen, there was a lot of concern at that time that we would see children who had no place to go, that we would see really terrible outcomes. We've actually seen capacity change. Agencies that previously provided congregate care instead adapt and start providing wraparound services and supports in families. We've seen in other states, states like Connecticut, who reduced their reliance by 50% due to policy restrictions. They now hold their staff accountable for placement decisions. They ensure congregate care is used only when family and community-based placements are deemed inappropriate. Their spending on group placements decreased by $70 million since instituting those type of restrictions. We would really like to make sure that budget proposals are contingent on the enactment of corresponding policy reforms, ensuring that we don't unnecessarily place children in congregate care, and that when children must be placed, that group care is not a placement where children grow up, like Allison described, but a very short-term intensive treatment intervention that meets the needs of children that we can measure in days rather than years. Our national policy, it's headed in the same direction. Both last year and this year, policy changes that limit 4E funding for congregate care after a set amount of days have been considered. Placements that have such detrimental impacts really do require policy that has a justification and ensures that youth get the treatment they need. We believe that the reforms that are contained in the department's CCR proposal will finally get these children and youth the policy protections they have a right to receive. That accountability to ensure that congregate care placements are very short term, that intensive treatment intervention is only used for children who need it, and that there is always a goal of return to family, not of aging out. This is not an abstract discussion. Children are living in these facilities today. We're not going to get a second chance to celebrate birthdays, to give hugs, or to assure them that they're not forgotten damaged goods. We have to recognize the urgency to restrict congregate care today and to ensure some quality immediately. Kids can't wait another day without parenting. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Appreciate the panel's presentation. Any questions? Senator Monning, thank you for your perspective and sharing your life experience. If the department would come back and respond to any of the comments you've heard, as well as respond to the questions on page 18 of the agenda. And if there's public comment, members of the public can begin to queue up if you so desire.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell. I think we sort of basically covered the questions in the overall presentation, so I'll just hold any specific questions.
Excellent. Any response you want to make to the previous panel?
No, I mean, we appreciate the broad support that folk have for CCR. We understand that, you know, as the LAO also sort of raised, you know, there are details that are going to come into the process as we move it forward, and particularly around the issue of how do we standardize things like specialized care increments and things like that. I think that is tied to the whole notion of a sort of front-end assessment that has standardized domains across the state, and that through that means I think we can meet the issues.
Yes, Senator Monning.
Thank you. I think you, on the follow-up questions, I'm just curious, you did cover the, some detail about how the funding for county foster parent recruitment and support will be allocated and used, but I'm just curious, how do you go from where we are now? What's the actual, what are the tools to recruit? How do you find families who aren't currently providing support and care? How do we recruit new families?
I think there are at least two, maybe three primary steps. The first is make sure that the people we currently have as foster parents are presenting a positive message about their experience in caring for our kids. That's why I've been sort of using the word retention first. They influence a bad rap from a current foster parent, I think, can chill the receptivity far beyond, you know, any names we would ever know. The second piece is what I was saying as one of the other things we would want to see accomplished very early in this, which is front-end family finding, and working quickly to try to identify on both sides, you know, mother, father, family structures, who may be available. And if a child is, you know, verbal, et cetera, you know, ask the child, who were the adults at your last birthday party? Chances are somebody in that group has an affectionate connection to the child. It may not immediately pop up on a, you know, second line of relationship chart, but we have to sort of, I think, get really stronger at finding those people. Interestingly, in the city of Baltimore, they worked out relationships where, for school-age, particularly younger children, look at who the emergency card is. A parent is going to put down the name of somebody they think is reliable, not somebody they think isn't. And it's probably somebody the child knows. It probably is a place the child has spent the night before. So I mean, I think these are the sorts of routes that we would be sitting down with our partners and other experts to try to say, we don't just want to divvy up money and say, now go Xerox flyers. It's what are the targeted ways, and it may vary from community to community, that offers opportunities.
Thank you. That's helpful. It's a little more organic than just putting an ad in a newspaper saying we're looking for volunteers. Great. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to the public and then ask you, Director, if you could respond to question 3 on page 18 after we finish. Given the lateness of the hour, we're going to have a hard stop at 4 o'clock because I'm going to lose members. So I would ask you all to restrict your comments to 1 minute each, please, just so we can to get through the rest of the agenda. I appreciate your understanding. First witness.
Angie Schwartz with the Alliance for Children's Rights, and I too want to really applaud the department for their work around the continuum of care reform. I think it's absolutely true that this is the first time these efforts have gotten this far, and it's because we're considering a comprehensive approach that both restricts the availability of group homes and makes sure that those are used in a mindful way, but also bolsters the support for our families. And I think it's absolutely vital to do both. If you just restrict group home placements, you will of course see a reduction in group home placements, but with unintended consequences of children just being kept out of the system that actually need the support, or being incarcerated, or being shipped out of state. And the department has worked very intensively to make sure that those unintended consequences don't happen, and that we bolster supports to families by bolstering our system, by providing extra money to counties to do recruitment and retention of our families, by providing extra funding to our foster family agencies for their social workers. But as Susanna noted, what is really missing is an examination of the funding to our foster homes themselves. And our foster families are really the centerpiece of all of this. We need to make sure our families are adequately supported in order to be able to be successful in caring for these kids.
Thank you.
And the rates that we pay our foster families are very incoherent and inconsistent. So we would really ask the department and the legislature to be very mindful of the need to look at our specialized care system and applying that across all family placements, not just a subset of our families.
And again, I am going to ask people to try to keep it to 1 minute out of respect for the people behind you in line and getting to our other witnesses on other agenda items. Thank you.
My name's Nick Honey. I'm the Child Welfare Director for Sonoma County, and you'll hear from a number of people from my county to talk about these reforms that are being proposed. I think for me, the most important thing is that this is a significant investment that's needed, particularly if we're going to create alternatives to group living. We need to think differently and creatively and really invest in recruiting and retaining foster parents. We talk a lot in Quality Parenting Initiative about the foster parents being our most important intervention for children in foster care. And if we continue to do business as usual and not fund it adequately, we're going to get the outcomes as usual. We really need to invest in the foster parents that serve our kids.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Joyce Hammerich, and I am the current president of the Redwood Empire Foster Parent Association. But more importantly, I am an emergency foster parent from Sonoma County and have been for about 13 years. We've had 130 plus children that have come through our home in that time. And I just wanted to not only thank you for recognizing foster parents as being important, because when we take a child into our home, they come in and we know nothing about them. We are there to show them support and love and to figure out what kind of services we need. And we need more services that we can get for the children that come into our home. But we also need care for the foster parents themselves. We need to be able to take some time ourselves when you have a child that you can't necessarily leave with any kind of a babysitter or child care provider. We have to have specialized care for the children in our home. I just want to thank you again, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity and to back this.
Thank you very much.
Ernie Lovelace, foster parent from Sonoma County as well. My wife and I have been doing foster care for 26 years. Of course, my wife being the lead role in that. But we do support the initiative. I think that one of the things the director said that I would like to key on, and that is the support of foster families, especially in the mentoring and the training of foster families, so that we do get quality training, quality people doing foster care. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Carol Schroeder with the California Alliance of Child and Family Services. I just want to express our strong support for continuum care reform and just say very briefly that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get foster care right. This is an opportunity to redesign foster care, and I applaud the department and the administration for having taken the bold step and moving forward with this.
Thank you very much.
Linda Way with Western Center on Law and Poverty. As one of the co-counsels on KD8, we support the shift away from long-term institutionalization. I think we can all agree that the end goal is to get our foster youth into home settings. We believe the best way to do this is through the investment on family home treatment options. We are concerned that the focus on short-term residential treatment centers shifts resources from this. There's no definitive limit on the time a child may spend in short-term residential treatment centers, no limit on how many short-term residential treatment centers can be accredited, no limit on the number of kids with serious emotional disturbances who can be placed, no penalty fees for short-term residential treatment centers, and being unable to move kids into home settings, and no penalty for not developing community-intensive mental health services. We support the staff recommendation to keep open while we work through these issues.
Thank you very much. That was 1 minute exactly.
Hi,
Western Center knows what they're doing. Thank you.
my name is Stephanie Montez. I'm a social worker with Sonoma County Family, Youth, and Children's Services, and I work primarily with our emergency foster care parents. We need the money for recruitment, support, retention, because the sad reality in Sonoma County is we split siblings. We just don't have the ability to keep them together, and we shouldn't re-traumatize our kids when they come into care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness, 1 minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Meg Easter Dawson, and I'm a program manager with the Sonoma County Child Welfare Agency. And I am here in support of the additional funding for foster parent recruitment, retention, and support. Foster parents are the best intervention that we have for our foster youth. And in Sonoma County, we desperately need additional foster families that can provide a consistent and caring home. So not only for that recruitment, but to be able to retain our foster parents and be able to provide the support that they need through training, through mentorship, and additional supports, respite care, so that they can provide that care and continue to be there for our foster youth. Thank you.
Thank you.